Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am MartineFelton and this is going to be a watercolor tutorial. The time lapse that you're seeing right now is the sketch that I created in Procreate on my iPad. And what I did is create my own reference, my own sketch, and now we are going to render that with watercolor. So I'm first wetting my palette there and getting my brush. I believe that is a size 8 brush, a watercolor brush, round tip. And what I like to do when I start my flower vases is start with placing the flowers, the greenery on the page first before I draw the vase or anything else. I like to, because really the main star of the artwork in this case are the flowers, right? So I like to start with them first and place them and have them where I want them to be. And I'm painting very, very loosely. I am not like a realistic painter or artist, especially with watercolor. I paint very loose, and the key to that I have found in painting flowers with watercolor very loosely is leaving some white space in the flower so that it actually looks like a flower. If you just fill in the entire flower with color, then it just looks like a blob, and you're gonna have to go in and with details so that it looks like a flower. But I find that if you see how I'm leaving some white space in there, it looks like a flower more so than if you colored it all the way in. So I'm just going in with various colors of watercolor. The watercolor palettes, I'm using like a few different types of watercolors. I have in the palette, the porcelain palette to the right there, I have some Winsor and Newton watercolors and some Daniel Smith in there. And then the one to the left was my very first watercolor palette when I first started painting. And it's Artist Loft from Michaels, which I really like it. I know that it's not like professional watercolor, but the colors are very, very vibrant. And I don't know, it's my first palette, so I don't want to let go of it. But I have invested in other watercolors since then, but I still gravitate back to my very first watercolor palette. Anyway, I'm going, I'm painting the vase, and I realized, I'm going back in with the greenery, with the stems, and placing stems in there, filling up the bouquet and things like that, and just putting in the greenery. And one of my favorite colors to use for greenery is sap green. That's like one of my favorite greens. I will always love that color, sap green. It's just such a versatile green that you can use in bouquets, you can use in landscapes, and I just love that green. So now I've moved on to the chair, and I'm going to start painting the chair and the table and things like that. So I really love still lifes. I mean, when I first started painting, I really didn't, I just went for the acrylic, and I wasn't really aware of all the different mediums that were available to me. So I just, dived in with canvases and acrylic paints. And as time went on, as I, evolved in my art, I discovered watercolor, and I discovered all of these different types of mediums, which I have grown very, very fond of. Recently, watercolor has been my go-to. I just think that it's so fun and pretty, and I just love it. So anyway, that purple there is like a tablecloth. And I'm extending the chair there. And again, I like to paint very loosely. Nothing is going to be perfect in my paintings. You will see some wonkiness. You will see some unevenness. Perspective will be off. But, I love a good flat still life, flower vase, whatever the case may be. I just love it. And I think that it just really allows the artist to be very expressive. Nothing, everything doesn't have to be perfect. The part of doing art and being an artist is being able to express oneself. And I feel like if someone wants realism, they can take a picture or something, or get into photography. But I feel like for art, for painting, it's just so much, it's so much better when it's expressive and abstract and very loose. So that right there is a cup that I drew at the bottom there, and the yellow curtains on the wall, even though there's not a window. I decided to draw some drapes. Sometimes people have drapes on a wall, and there's not necessarily a window there. It's part of the decoration. It's part of the decor of the room, having tall drapes on a wall sometimes. So anyway, that's what I'm doing there with the yellow color. And I like to keep my paintings very like vibrant and bold. That's why I use a lot of bright colors. But I also at the same time try to keep the colors as complementary as possible. I mean, that's not always necessary to use complementary colors. You don't have to. You can do whatever you want, but I try to keep my colors as complementary as possible, because it's just pleasing. It's pleasing to the eye. So I was putting some dots on the drapes there, but some of them, the paper was still wet in a particular area, so the red paint kind of spread, and I really didn't want it to, but sometimes that happens. Adding little circles, adding details to the vase, adding interest and things like that. here I'm adding a picture frame to the wall. Again, just continuing to add interest to the painting. And because I have so many patterns, I was considering adding a pattern to the wall, but I felt like I had so many other patterns on the vase and on the drapes, and there's going to be patterns on the tablecloth there. I figured, let me just keep the wall plain. And I couldn't choose a color, a plain color. I just had a hard time choosing a color for the wall, so I left it. And I probably could have added a color, but I just really couldn't choose. And I didn't want to, sometimes we can overwork our paintings and then ruin them, but which is fine. That's part of learning. But I really didn't want to ruin this painting. So just adding a little bit of artwork within the artwork. I like to do that. In my still lifes, you'll see that I do that a lot. I am here trying to replace the dots that spread. So here we go. And now I am adding, that's a white gel pen. So I'm going to be adding some details with some ink pens now. So I'm done with the watercolor part of this, and we're going to zoom in a little closer so you can see the pen work that I'm doing. This is a white gel pen. I think I got it on Amazon or something, but just adding some patterns to the tablecloth that is halfway off the table. Oh. But that is the beauty of still lifes. You can add whatever it is you want. It's like the items, you use the items in your still life to convey a message, invoke a feeling. Like, I like still lifes with flowers, and I like cluttered still lifes with a lot of things. I don't know why it brings me such joy. I like to paint flower vases. So I am adding details to the teacup. And yep, adding a little bit of steam there. It's a hot cup of tea. And I'm actually going to call this piece Tea Time. And adding details to the chair. Just being very loose, not being too precise with the line. I mean, the paint is already wonky, so the lines need to be wonky as well. Adding details to the vase. I'm using a fine liner there. I think it's a Sakura 1.05 pen fine liner in black. This is archival ink, so the ink will not come off. And just adding details to the leaves and the flowers, mostly the leaves though. I always get nervous about adding these details to leaves like this because I never want to add too much, but sometimes you just can't stop lining everything. So I did my best not to go overboard with the fine lining of the leaves. Just adding little details here and there, moving really quickly. not going slow, because if you go slow, then you're more than likely going to overwork it. So when you're adding details like this, just move fast, think fast, and just add, little details, not a whole bunch. I think I should have stopped there, but I didn't. All right, so I have my Tombow pens there. I believe it's the black one, so I'm adding details to the flowers. The centers, making them look more like flowers. Sorry, I'm a little bit out of frame there. But just continuing to add details and trying to layer this flower, add some depth to it. Yeah, there, go adding more black details, which I could have left, but it's fine. It still came out beautiful. Yeah. Oh, that was actually green. That was a very dark green. And there I am adding some orange to the center. Well, it's a yellowish orange. There's the orange. Trying to kind of add more depth to that red flower there. So I just decided to leave it alone. And there she is. There is the painting. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I hope that you grabbed your watercolors and painted along with me. And there is the reference picture that I was working from. I didn't stick to everything. I kind of changed things as I was drawing. So I hope that you enjoyed. I love you all for watching.